All right. No. There we go. All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Lamed Daled Mesachas Pesachim. I actually should just pretend like we did something yesterday that we didn't do yet, because it's really no shaykhs with the next sugya. But we'll go back to it. We're just bringing out the point that we left off yesterday. We were discussing a case of different items that were tamei. Perhaps there was some sort of takala, something bad that would happen, that people might come to go ahead and eat the tamei. So basically, they made them gross, right? They put oil in klicheres. They put the bread with the wood. So then they had the question of the kernels. They said, no, the kernels were they were boiled first. The wheat kernels were boiled first, which made them gross. So now the Gemara just asks a simple question, 2 lines from the top of Lamed Daled and Aleph. So he says, "Vehechi tamar de Rav Ashi." So where did he say this? So in this case, Rabbi Avin bar Rav Achal Rabbi Yitzchak Abishal Gabel Shel Beis Rabbi Haya. Right, little known fact, Abishal, he was the Gabel, he was the kneader in the house of Rabbi. They used to go ahead and use truma tameya to go ahead and for the fire. They used to go ahead and use the hot water from there, in order to go ahead and knead the dough. So the question was, why they use these kernels that were truma tameya? Perhaps they're going to, whoever's working with it, that he was kneading, or somebody else will come to go ahead and eat from those kernels that were supposed to be, burnt, and maybe some that are left around. They'll go ahead and eat them. So the Gemara answer is no. Amar Rav Ashi, and that Rav Ashi says, "Bishli kaso misasa." Since they were going unboiled, they were made gross, and therefore there was no chashash of that truma tameya being eaten. Okay. Now, new case. We are approximately, I don't know how many lines is from the top. So I don't know, 6, 7 lines. First word from the first word of the line. So Abaye bar Avin, Rabbi Chanina bar Avin, Tanu Trumos be'Rabba. So they were learning Trumos. We're going back to the sugya of Trumos. They were learning Trumos in the house or in the yeshiva of Rabba. So Pagabahu Rava bar Masna, Rava bar Masna, he said to them, "My memory used to be Trumos de Be'Mar." Knew what they say in Be'Rabba today. So they said to him, "My kushlecha." Okay, we're not going to tell you what we learned, but tell us what's bothering you. Obviously, you got something on your mind. What is it? So he told him, "Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, shesile trumois shenitamush shesalan. If you have truma, right, that were plants, okay, that they were ready to give to the klanim, and they became tamei, and then they went ahead and replanted those plants, okay. So maybe we're talking about a certain plant. Now, so we'll soon see the different types of plants that, one could replant a plant, like an onion, right? Or a cabbage, right? So he took his truma plants and he replanted them. So now that which grows to them is taharim l'mitame. Those are tahor from being mitame other things. So even those were tamei when he planted it. The new saplings or new things that grow out cannot be matame other things. However, it's usher to eat. It's usher to eat. So the Gemara asks, so this was not the Gemara, so this was bothering him. If you're telling me it doesn't have the ability to be matame other things, so why is it usher for the l'chayr? Why is it teaching us it's usher for the kohen to go eat it? Because it's tamei, right? Well, which one is it? Is it tamei? If it's tamei, it should be able to be matame other things. And if it's not tamei, because it can't be matame other things, the kohen should be able to eat it because it's tahara. So we're going to give a couple of different terutzim, and this is what we're going to discuss today. So maybe means no. When it says usher, doesn't mean it's usher for the kohen to eat because it's tamei. Rather, what he means to say is that it's usher for a non-kohen to go ahead and eat it. Why? Because it's considered to be truma. So Gemara says, "My kamash malan gedulei truma." Well, you come teach you that you go ahead and you plant. So if the kohen receives truma and he goes ahead and he plants that truma, so that which grows from it is considered to be truma. Tanina, we already know that halacha, right? We're from gedulei truma, right? It says in the Brisa, it says gedulei truma is truma. V'chitem gedulei gedulin. And if you're going to tell me that which grows from grows, in other words, the gedulei gedulim are basically considered like lettuce or onions or something that it's not like a seed, right? That breaks open. It's basically you plant that item. So my kamash b'la b'davar shein zara kala, and therefore maybe you're coming to teach me the halacha by truma when it comes to, let's say, something which comes from seeds, as opposed to something that comes from, let's say, lettuce or bulbs or the like that go ahead and that don't sort of break up, right? Hanametanina. We also learned that halacha too. Hatevel gidulav mutar, right? So tevel. Now, normally something which is tevel, it's forbidden to go ahead and eat. Is brought inside. It's in the pile. Now you go ahead and have to take your chumas and maestros. Okay. Now, if something is tevel and it was replanted into the field, okay. So if it loses its status of tevel, then one could technically eat it while he's working on the field, right? One who's working on the field is allowed to go ahead and sort of, pick off the field. It's not chayv chumas maestros until you bring it to the house. So if he's out in the field, it's not tevel yet. So if you plant tevel, all right, gedula of mutarim, it's that which grows from it is not a continuation of its tevel, right? It's only tevel once again when you bring it in. But outside there, you can go ahead and eat and eat it casually. So bedavar is a hatevel gedula of mutarim, and bedavar shadar kala. That's only we're talking about with something where the seed basically, gets broken up, and when it, opens up and cracks, and then it grows from it. Right, but it's something that doesn't crack, such as the onions, right, which remain, the bulb remains. So therefore, anything that grows from it is just a continuation of that. So therefore, what do you see from here? All cases, anything that grows from it is a continuation of that which was planted. It's not considered to be a new planting, therefore it has a new status. No, it's a continuation. So ishtiku. So they were quiet. Okay, did you hear a teretz on this? What does it mean when you say it's aser to eat, right? Aser lekohanim. It's a new case. That the halach is that it becomes, we said it's tahor to make other things tamei, because we say once you plant it, it's like right. So therefore, it doesn't have the ability to be metame other things. However, it itself is asrti to the kohanim. Why is that? Because hesach hadas, right? Because there is a break in paying attention, right? He's no longer watching it. It's hesach hadas, and therefore, since he's not watching it, therefore there's a psul in the hektish. And we're going to see what this hesach hadas is. All right. So the Gemara says, "Henichulaman damar hesach hadas pasal haguf havi shapir." According, now there's going to be a machlokes, right? According to the opinion who holds that hesach hadas is a psul in the goof. In other words, it's something intrinsically wrong with the item. In other words, if something is not watched, and therefore, since it's out of mind and out of sight, out of mind, therefore that's pasul. All right, the Rabbanim were geyser. This is called pasul. This is a psul in it because it wasn't watched over. Something might have happened to it. It could have gone tamei. Whatever it is, since it could have gone bad, it itself is bad, even if I know otherwise. Okay, even if it turns out we checked the video camera and it doesn't make a difference. Hesach hadas, done, right? But according to the opinion holds hesach hadas is only because it might become tamei. It might have been tamei without you watching it. So what are you going to say in this case, right? How are you going to say the psul hesach hadas is because maybe it came tamei? Well, what do you mean? You planted it, right? You planted it, and we said it when it grows out, it can't be matame other thing, so it loses its tuma. So therefore, it should be no different, right? So therefore, in this case, they should become tahor, right? So once you replant it, it's like it's new, right? So therefore, how is the hesach hadas suffik tuma? Even if it was vade tamei, you replanted it. So why should that make sense according to that mandamar? We learn about regarding this machlokes of hesach hadas. Hesach hadas, Rabbi Yochanan Amar psul of tuma havi. It's a psul of tuma. It's a suffik tuma, and therefore that's the reason why it's no good. It's hesach hadas. And Shimon Lakish Amar psul gufi. Right? It's like a takana. It's a psul guf, and therefore it's a din that this is tamei. Now, Rabbi Yochanan Amar psul tuma havi. He says this is the psul of tuma. Why? If Eliyahu comes and he says it's tahor, then he listens to Rabbi Navi. And if Shimon Lakish psul haguf havi shin yavo Eliyahu terena ein shemilo. He even says tahor, right? Nothing tamei touched it. It's still no good because it's hesach hadas. It's a din that if you don't watch it, it becomes out of sight, out of mind. Therefore, that's pasul. Fine. Eisvei Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Shimon Lakish. So Rabbi Yochanan has a kashan Rabbi Shimon Lakish shita of hesach hadas. So Rabbi Shmuel ben Osha, Rabbi Yochanan Broka, Rabbi Shmuel, the son of Rabbi Yochanan Broka, said, "Lo kadon haya bein kavesh lemizbeach b'marav shel kavesh." There was a little area, there was a little hole on the floor on the west side, I guess, towards the ulam, towards the Kodesh HaKodashim, by the large mizbech, there was a ramp, and right on the left of the ramp, there was somewhere small to go ahead and put there. That if there was a chatas oaf that was brought, a bird offering, a chatas bird offering, that became possible. The bird became possible. And what would they do there? They would put it over there, utu ubar tsurasan, and they would leave it there for it to go bad, right? They would leave it to go bad, right? The dead animals and carcasses, they start to go ahead and decompose, right? So they went there for it to go bad. Then the yates in the base of Sreifa, and then only at that point do they go ahead out and take it to the base of Sreifa. Now, so they took these things. Now, obviously, they couldn't burn them right away. So they had to go ahead, it says over there, they had to leave them over so they get disgusting till they're no longer physically fit to the bird, and then go ahead and burn it, right? Normally, if it was a regular psul of a bird, you can burn it right away. But over here, these were quasi-puzzle. So the question is, we assume that it was a psul of Hesach Hadas. So if you say that the reason why they're puzzled Hesach Hadas is because it's a suffix tameh, suffix not tameh, and therefore you can't really burn it because we don't know. So that's why we need it physically to go bad. Maybe Eliyahu will come and say, "Oh, it's good, so therefore I can't go ahead and burn it, and I cannot burn it because I don't know." Right? So maybe Eliyahu will come, and therefore if you leave it over, also it physically becomes bad. They can no longer offer it. So then, even if then you can go ahead and destroy it. But if you say that Hesach Hadas psula guf is a din, that since it wasn't washed, therefore it's no longer good. Lami ubutzura. Why do you have to go ahead and burn it? Right? Vatanya, we learned in the Bryce, is that cloud this is the rule. Kol shepsula begufo, you start miyad. Anything that's a psul in the goof, right? You should go ahead and burn it right away, right? And bedav balim tubar tzarasa. But however, there was an issue with the blood. So let's say after you do the shechita, and then something happened with the blood, either was spilled or whatever it was, or it became tameh, right? Or lubalim, or the owners became tameh afterwards. Then tubar tzarasa, then let the meat go ahead and become bad, and then the to the base of streifa, and then take it to the base of streifa. So over here, if it's psula goof, right? Why do you have to go ahead, if Hesach Hadas is psula guf, why do you have to go ahead and leave it to let it start going physically bad, right? You should be able to burn it right away. You start with miyad. So it's a kasha in the opinion who holds that Hesach Hadas is considered to be psula guf. So relay. No, so hi Tana debate Rabba Baravuhu Amar Afilu Pigel Tone Ibur Tzura. No, this holds like the opinion of Rabba Baravua, who taught that pigel, even other psulim, right, in the animal itself, like pigel, right, one who goes ahead and during the shechita or part of the avoda has the wrong intentions of when it is consumed, right, eaten or burnt in the mizbeach, right. So therefore, that is called pigel. That even pigel, even though it's a psula goof, you really maybe you should burn it right away. You don't burn it right away, right? You need ibur tzura. So too over here in the case of Hesach Hadas, even though it's a psula goof, it's no different than pigel. That would also need ibur tzura. Fine. Esve. So yes, Kasha 4 lines from the top. Nitma shenifsel habasar. Let's say after the shechita was done, they did the shechita. They took the blood and a kli, and then they cut off the meat from the animal. Right? They're going ahead. Nitma onishal basar, and then something bad it becomes tameh or becomes puzzle. The meat will soon say what? It was taken outside. Rabbi Eliezer, Aimer, Yizra. Rabbi Eliezer says, and now they still have the blood in the kli, but the meat went bad. So he says, no, you can still go ahead and sprinkle the blood. The korban's okay because the shechita was done properly. Just the meat went bad after, so that can't be done. But Shomer lo Yizra, you shouldn't go ahead and spill the blood. But he says, if one went ahead and did it, even though he really shouldn't go ahead and spill the blood or pour the blood on his back, but if he does go ahead and apply the blood, then it is hortza. It does work. It is an accepted korban. Now, my nifsel. What's the psul over here? We said nitma oshen nifsel habasar, right? So what's nifsel? Salah Hesach Hadas isn't now referring to Hesach Hadas, right? There was Hesach Hadas by the meat. It wasn't being washed. So therefore, we don't know what happened. So therefore, the psul in the meat. And if you say that we hold, since it's Hesach Hadas, the issue is that it's a suffix, it might become tameh. So therefore, it makes sense if you offered it that it works. It's hortza. It works. Why? Because the tzitz, right, used to go ahead and cover that. Even if there was a psul tuma, right? The tzitz that was on the head of the Kohen Gadol would take care of any if an animal was brought that was tamei, right? But the evidence, okay, right? It wouldn't take care of other psulim, but it would take care of psulim of what's it called, of tuma. So therefore, if you say it's a psul tuma, it makes sense. But if you say it has to hadas psul aguf, amai hurtza, why should the tzitz help be maratza the korban, right? The korban should be no good at all. So my nifsel, so the Gemara says, no, my nifsel psul yom. It means that tful yom went ahead and touched it. So ihachi hainu tami. So what I said, it said nitma o shnifsel abasa, right? So there's, why didn't you say nitma abasa? If you're talking about the psul over here is when a tful yom touched it, there's to be two. That's tami. So Gemara says no trey gavnei tami. Two types of tuma, and therefore that's what it was discussing. Fine. Now. Kisalik Rabin, let's go back on what we said earlier. We had a case earlier. One second, let me see Rashi 1 second. Fine. All right, let's go. So he says, Kisalik Rabin, when Rabin went up, or he left, right? He went up to, I guess, Israel. So Amar L'Shmaitze, so Amar L'Shmaitze came into Rabbi Yirmiyah. So he said over this limud to Rabbi Yirmiyah, the Omar Bavloi Tipshi, right? So he told over this lima that we said earlier, right, regarding the truma in terms of when it's planted, right, that it can't be matame other things, but it's forbidden to go ahead and eat. So he said the Omar, and he said Bavloi Tipshi, right? He came, I guess, to Eretz Yisrael, and he told him this lima. He said, foolish, right, Babylonians, right, Bavloi. Right, because you sit in a dark land, right? So you say over dark limudim. Right? Why didn't you didn't hear that which Rabbi Shlakish said in the name of Rabbi Yeshia? Mei hachag shenitmo. So we're talking about the water that was used for nisuk hamayim, that was the port of Mizbeach on Sukkos. So you say Mei hachag shenitmo, they became tamei. Right, so normally they would draw it and bring it directly, but when it was Shabbos, they would leave it there and bring it there, and it became tamei, right, on the Shabbos, and they had to go ahead and they couldn't redraw more water, so they had to use this water. So if they did hashaka. Now hashaka is basically when you take the water and you make and you have it, right, like in the shika kiss, right, when it comes in contact with the water of a mikvah, it's matar everything, right. So if you have a lot of water here, right, and you have another pool of water here, and then you stream water from one to the other. So the mikvah has the power to be, everything else is tar. So it's matire the water. You can re-matire these liquids here. So you do hashaka first, and then you go ahead and you sanctify the water for the mizbeach. Taharin, beautiful, it works. However, if it became tamei and then he was makdish it, when this time before he was matayir, and then afterwards he did the hashaka tmeim, then it doesn't work, right? It's tamei. So the Gemara says michti zeria ninu, right? Let's go back to the case we had earlier, right? We had earlier on Amud Aleph, right? Well, we had the case of the day where a person had plants that were tamei and he planted them, right? So we said over there that they're tahor, right? So over there, that's called zriya, planting it. So over here, we're saying that basically do hashaka is the same thing as zriya, as planting, right? It's like you're rejuvenating it, or you're putting it into the ground, just like you plant, it's like a new planting. So to over here, right? When you go ahead and you touch the water, it's like a new water, right? So now, samichti, zriya ninu, so mali hashikan, v'achakach hashikan, mali hektisha, v'achakach hashikan. What's the difference, right? Whether you do hashaka first, whether you're matire the water, you do the zriya, right? And then you're makdish and say, okay, now this is going to be used for the mizbeach. Or you say this is going to be used for the mizbeach, and then you're matire it. What's the difference? Alma, ein zriya lehektish. You see over there, lemaisa, but there is a difference because it doesn't allow you to do it. So once you make something hektish, you can't go ahead and do a zriya to be matire it, right? Once you say, okay, this water is going to be used for the mizbeach, and it becomes tamei, you can't zriya it, right? You can't plant it, you can't do hashaka, you can't make it new, right? After it's like a special chumrah by hektish. So Hakinami, why don't we say the same thing over here by truma? Ein zriya truma, right? So too in this case, right? When it comes to the plants, right? There is no zrila truma. And therefore, it still has the tuma with it, ain zriya. So therefore, there's no tuma with it. So Yasiv Rav Dimi v'kamar lo shmaitz amar le Abaye. So hikdisham bekli b'kamar of a pel loy of the Rabban Maila. So do we say over here that way he's makdish? There's two ways to be makdish something: either just bepeh, saying this is going to be used it, or when it comes to things such as water and other things that are poured on, right? That is done by putting it in a kli sharis, right? Putting it in a kli of the Beis Hamikdash, right? You put in a kli sharis, you sanctify the water for that purpose. So over here, how was the water sanctified? It's a side question, side note on that case. Was it done bepeh, or was it done literally by putting in a kli? So he says, right. So in this case, it says, right. So he said, was this a case of right? Bekli kamar of bepeh loy of Rabbanan Maila, adum bepeh nami of Rabbanan Maila, or even if it was just done bepeh, therefore, nevertheless, it still is this chumrah. So he says, no, I never heard. However, shamati, I heard a similar case. Maybe we can learn from there. The Amar Rebbe of Rabbi Yechanan, anavim shenitmu. We actually saw this case yesterday. You had grapes that became tummy, right? Actually, you're going to ask in this case in 1 second. But darchan, so let's say they were tummy. And darchan, let's say he goes ahead and he squeezes them, and then so the juices inside. We'll go with the side that we saw. There's two ways to look at the juice inside. Let's assume that the juices inside are not part of the fruit, right? They're only mifkid pakid. They're only inside it. So the juices that come out. Right, and then first, so he squeezes them, the juices come out, and then he's makdish it tahar. Those are tahar. All right, that it was not made tame from the tame grapes. Those are tahar. And we'll ask actually the question we had yesterday. He says, well, what do you mean? Yesterday we said you can only do it less than a kazayis. We'll ask that in a minute. But you go ahead and you squeeze it. There's tahar. But let's say he's makdish the grapes, and then he squeezes them. Then tameid. Then it's tame. So what do you see over there? It was an extra chumrah they made by hektish. Since you already made these grapes hektish, therefore there was extra chumrah that the juice that comes out of it will be those will become tamei. And we see over here that he wasn't makdish, right, the grapes before he squeezed them by putting them in a kli. He was makdish it just bepeh. And nevertheless, we see that there's a chumrah that if you're makdish it and then you go ahead and do it, it's no good. That it even applies bepeh. Some Rav Yosef, anavim kamarta. What are you talking about? Grapes? So acha banavim shel truma askina. Maybe talking about the grapes of truma. The kedushas of ped didu kedushas kli damya. That when it comes to truma, making something kadosh, right? That by truma, the only way to make something kadosh is through peh. So therefore, when it comes to truma peh, it's basically the same thing as, let's say, the water putting in a kli shar. So it's not a good proof. Well, hani debai kli. But those that require kli, bepeh lo of the Rabbanan Maila. But maybe over there, those things that require kli, such as the mayim, maybe over there, bepeh would not work. So now the Gemara asks, we said yesterday. So darchan v'afilu tuva. What do you mean? You can go ahead and we said in case of their tummy, you can go ahead and squeeze them out, even many at a time. Did Rabbi Yechanan say this? We said yesterday, another game tummy. Darchan pachas mekabetza. You go ahead and only go ahead and do it less than a kabetza at a time, because it's more than a kabetza. Then the fruit, the grapes, since they're more than a kabetza, they go ahead and be metame the juice that comes out. So iboy seima hacha nami pachas mekabetza. Over here, that's what you said. You go ahead and squeeze them. He meant to say that you go ahead and squeeze them if you only squeeze out less than the shear of an egg every time, or if iboy seima hasam the nagala berishain. So over there was we're talking about the Nagel of Rishon, the Havi Lahu Einu Shein, right? Over there that the grapes became tame by being touched from a Rishon, right? Which then makes the grapes tame, a sheni when it comes to truma, and a sheni can make a shlishi. So therefore, in that case, since they become tame, therefore you can only do less than a kabetza. However, in this case, Hachub over here, the Nagel b'sheni was touched by a sheni l'truma, right? The person was a sheni, therefore the grapes are a shlishi, and therefore it's not an issue to go ahead and squeeze out the grapes even all out of them at a time, because there's nothing be a shlishi cannot be metame, right? It's just nifsal. I can't make, there's no revi there. And Omar Rava, and now we're just going to give 3 examples when we get to the Mishnah. But Omar Rava, Afanami Nabi Taninu, we also learn a brisa. V'nasan alav mayim chayim el keli. It says over there regarding the water for the paraduma. It says you put a place over there mayim chayim el keli shedei chiyusan bekli, right? In order that there should be gone chiyusan the kli, they should be chai. They should be live into the kli. I.e., when you use for the kli, right, to go ahead and mix it, right, with the ashes, that kli should be come directly from the spring water. However, then it says v'nasan. Then it says you place almat lishaninu. It sounds like you place like you already have it in a kli, and then you place it in a second kli. But I thought you just said there was a requirement for them to, the water to be a chuber. So are you taking it directly from the spring, or is it from the spring into something else, and then you take that something else, and then you pour it into the kli that you're going to go ahead and mix the ashes with? So Ella, top of the page, Lamed Hey and Aleph, Ella, Mila. Rather, it must have been, it was a special Mila, special chumrah they had by Hektish. So Hakinami Mila Sot over there in the case of Tamei Truma, right? When they went ahead and planted the Tamei Truma, we'll say that they shouldn't go ahead and eat it. In that case, it was special chumrah. And Amar Rav Shini Barashi, Tani, we also learned Tavav Ella Oicha B'Maiser. A person went ahead, and it was a case of what was this case over here, right? So it says Tavel Ella Eicha B'Maiser, right? Person was Tavel, all right, or Nida. Is it? Yeah, fine. So he said it was Tavel, and he and I guess he waited for 7 days, and he comes up. Eicha B'Maiser, you can go ahead and eat Maiser Sheni, Heriv, Shimsho. Once the sun goes down at night, Eicha B'Truma. It said then he can go ahead and eat Truma. Sounds like B'Truma in B'Kachim Lo. Right, he can only go ahead and eat truma that night, and that before the next day, and not kachim. Torah. Why wouldn't he be able to? He waited 7 days. He went to the mikveh. He went at night. Right, he's Torah. So Ella Mila. Rather, they made a Mila, right, because they didn't do the korban yet. Therefore, they made a special Mila. Hachinami, but Mila. So over here, in the case of truma by truma tameya. Also, they made another Mila. We would say by hektish. They can make special chumras. And finally, we also learned the rice of Vahabasar. It says over there, Vahabasar, Larabas is 18 Lavanas. It says Vahabasar, when it talks about the Shlomim, it says not only can the meat become Tameh, but even wood and the frankincense. I ate Lavona, B'nai Itimuninu. What are they foods? Can they become Tameh? They're not Tumacyclin. Why should they become Tameh? Ella, Mila. Rather, there was a milo they made by the wood, by carbonos or the shlamim, and also the frankincense can become levina, can become tamei, and hachinami milo. So over here in the case of the truma tameya, we also say that they made a extra chumrah, and there was not fully torah, and therefore it makes sense in this case why the kohanim would not be able to eat it because it was tamei. All right, we'll stop here. Shekayach. Everyone have an easy fast, a wonderful Shabbos, and Sunday, Meretz Hashem, back to the normal time of 7 o'clock. We'll see you. Be well.
All right, good Shabbos. Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.